Okay, if we're live, just let me move some stuff around so I can actually see all you lovely people in chat. Trust me, this is one of those games that's just a thing on that one. So, hello all. I made this one. Hopefully all, all me on Saturday for my Tensi video run. Anyway, this will be a run of Robotech, the new generation. It was actually a phone game released, I believe it was 2007. It's on Java. Fun fact, this actually got a 7 out of 10 from IGN at the time. And considering how phone games were considered back then, that says something. Anyway, this is based off the third of the three Robotech arcs, the one based off of Genesis Chamber, which is rare considering the only other games that exist in the series is that plus one of the other things. Anyway, we'll be using Scott. As the other two characters are unlocked while playing the game, this will be on New Game, although each character does have its own run. We'll just be using Scott since it's more of a good basic thing. So, hoping to show off a lot of the cool things within this, and hopefully get you all to realize, like, there were a lot of good old school mobile phone games, and, well, you should definitely check them out. I'm not going to tell you how to get a hold of them, apart from, like, yeah, there's a few ways to play it on modern hardware, technically on your phone, but do you want to actually try to play a game on your phone, especially with touch controls? Anyway, time is when we start the game. And by start the game, I mean actually appear on screen. So I'm gonna choose normal difficulty, and because we can actually watch through some of the cutscenes for now, as we'll be skipping the rest. Earth, basically telling you about the Invid and how everything that happened with the previous side during the Masters series part of the franchise. Anyway, we are going to be taking advantage of stuff. Also, you gotta enjoy the music in this game. Scott proposing to his sweetheart on that one, so we've got all that stuff. So the Retrothon. Anyway, I will be starting the timer in... Oh, crap. Forgot that it adjusts stuff on that one there. There we go. Accidentally hit the zoom button. Oh well. Lose a tiny bit of time on that one. I can adjust timer on that one later on if needed. Anyway, welcome to Robotech, the new generation. This game is a bit simpler than it would be, and also emulator-wise, it is a pain to actually play on anything other than mouse and keyboard, so you have to actually, adjust some stuff. Like, I am using an SNES controller for this, just to make it easier, but it also has the drawback of not wanting everything to be able to be mapped to actual face buttons. So I'll have to be swapping back and forth between mouse and keyboard input or two here and there, and my actual just buttons on the SNES controller. Anyway, this is a shmup. We do not have to mash in this one. You just have to control it. And the little vials of green energy, those are protoculture. They help fill up the gauge on the right, which ironically you will see me be saving up for everything when it comes to bosses, because that lets us transform and slow down action. Now you may think, Mage, this is a speed run. Why would you want to do that? Short and sweet. It increases our rate of fire, and on bosses it's dramatically useful. Now, one thing I do have to say, although this does appear a bit simple, it does have its own unique, side of stuff. Like, we want to set up stuff properly, so that way we can be able to end cutscenes fast, as well as position so that way we go off the screen fast enough. So it's not like there is just beat the game as fast as possible. There is some actual tech to the run. Although I will admit that because of how the emulator works, it does make some of the transparent layers a bit harder to see later on. But that's one of those things you get when it's like that. Yeah, I know, I mean, to be fair, it's one of those themes that developers decided to use what they could use. I do have to say, you gotta admit, though, that the fact that the game itself was actually considered halfway decent when it was released, you know, that should tell you something. I'm a huge proponent of people checking out some of the more hidden gems of various franchises. You won't ever see me truly get a perfect full screen clear, but that's mainly because this game is finicky. There are some rocks here that we can avoid. As I said, we want to save all the protoculture stuff just for the end game. Fun fact, we actually lose our weapons at the end of each stage. So it's more about just get what we can get to attack and just go from there. Thanks, Tempest. Gonna try to do my best here. So we're gonna save stuff like that. Hold on a minute. Gotta swap over to hit the button on keyboard because it would not let me set up stuff on a controller for that. So we just want to use, as I said, we want to use this because essentially that lets us destroy things. And we want to be able to position ourselves just close enough so that we can immediately skip the cutscenes as fast as possible. I personally got confused there, but hey, I don't run this game as much, but I do practice via my phone. It's one of those games that there are ways to play it. I'm not going to go into how, but just know you can look it up. But emulation for actual mobile Java is not as well polished as a lot of other systems. That should tell you things. People would rather actually come up with emulation for PS2, Xbox, and a lot of other stuff than come up with something that's more simple like Java. It should also tell you a lot of mobile games did not get as much love as they should. So we're gonna swap like that, left and right, left and right, left and right, move over here a little bit, avoid some of the attacks, and just get rid of some of the stuff. If you're wondering why I haven't used our missiles yet, that's because that requires me reaching over to one of the keyboard buttons, because it would not let me set it up to use something on the SNES pad. Also, this game legitimately treats multiple inputs like multiple buttons on the phone. So, yeah, I do what I can do with this one. But let's... oh, whoops. See? I literally have to use functions 1 and 2 and making sure I don't, you know, press the wrong button. Just to show you on that one. So we're just gonna aim left, aim right, and get through this stage. Now we're gonna skip the cutscene, and we're on next boss. So we're gonna position ourselves right around here. Wait till it opens up, and then we're immediately going to boost him as close as possible. Use the bonus that we picked up last, which lasts for a little bit of time, which gives us a sort of shadow clone. And then go up close here and just take them out. And there we go. We're just through the first mission. So, gonna position ourselves right here to be able to immediately skip the cutscene. As long as we don't have to move, then we can immediately just skip cutscenes on that one. And as you notice, I lose everything I've got. Again, having to actually swap back and forth between stuff, but I'm at least glad I've been able to showcase this game. It really is a hidden gem, and there's a lot of hidden gems from this era that just go unappreciated. Shoutouts to the developers that, I guess you could say, cut their teeth on developing for the phones, as well as, you know, basic internet at the time. Now, you have to admit, it does actually look good as a game goes, especially for what is essentially supposed to be on a, I guess you could think of it like a Razer, Samsung, you know, the types of phones you would have at the time. So again, we're just gonna position ourselves here, move up here, grab the protoculture, and just try to survive, get rid of as many enemies as possible. Part of the appeal to this game is it's actually a good way to learn the basics of a vertical shmup, you know, because you really don't have to learn how to mash, you just have to learn to move. And finding games that are good for that is a very, very, very interesting thing. And by that I mean it's a fun way to actually just pass the time, and in all honesty, it's one of those games that's like, if you have really nothing else to do, or you don't want to play Subway Surfers, or a lot of the other games that you'll play to kill some time at, it's actually a good game for that one. Anyway, these enemies are going to be bothering us, so we're going to just keep moving up, around. We can't increase the speed, but since we don't have to mash, it's all about just positioning ourselves perfectly. And at the end of each stage, I know to get ready because there's going to be a cutscene I need to skip. Fun fact, those mines there actually do damage us, see? So we're just going to shoot them down where we can because they give health, as well as positioning ourselves to take out as many enemies as you can. Luckily, we do not have to worry about lag, but at the same point, eyes on the prize, mage, eyes on the prize. Now the thing is each character has their own unique, different special. That's why there's also separate categories for the other characters. But we're going to launch a Missile Volley here. Don't expect a 1cc, y'all. As later on, it gets to be a bit harder to note stuff. Just like that, and I opened my mouth. Although, positive note is the game is kind with giving you the ability to pick up your weapons again. At least some of them. So it does help with making sure if you do die, you can survive it. It also gives you some decent amount of health. And we're going to fly up here, get rid of that enemy. Move up close so we can move here. The game does expect us to be using our Transform to Battleoid more than we are, but we, as I said, we want to save them for times when the game gets a little bit hairy. And it will slow down the action like here, pick that up, or for bosses, because if we go slow, then we don't, well, then we're not going fast, but that's one of the nice things about the shoot 'em up for Robotech. A lot of them have the ability to slow down the action, if not pause it. So that's one of the things we don't want to do, but it also becomes useful for avoiding some attacks. Getting close to the end for this one. Gonna move like that. And avoid the cutscene. You can tell when a boss is coming via the music chains. We're gonna again move this way. Slowly align ourselves up. And just slowly take up the boss. Positive note is that even though slowing down may look like it's a disadvantage, the fact that it lets us basically rapid fire the boss, since we do not control the actual guns firing, it's just the game itself. It's locked to auto fire in a sense. I don't even have to hold down a button for that one, but it's more just like it is the fastest way to actually add extra damage. Apart from using missiles, and the missiles, well, for Scott, they're decent enough, but not as good as other things. And this is the, but I forget which the upgrades it is on that one there. I believe it's the one that gives us double, gives us an actual clones. But we don't want to use that just yet, because it does actually not last once you use it, so saving your power-ups and knowing when to use them and when to not is very important. So we're going to move there, fly down around here, try not to get an attack, because unlike some of the other games, you do not get the ability to take out enemies while actually dealing damage. I mean, you don't have the ability to actually hit an enemy and then get damage. As you'll see coming up with Macross Saga HD, that is the fact that you can actually still kill enemies while hitting them is a huge piece of tech in that run. I'm gonna move here, up here, grab this quick, fly down here. I could be going all in for getting all the enemies as much as possible, but we want to go fast, not do scoring. So I do what I can do for full screen clears when I can. And this is what happens when you have a level 3 full missiles, at least for Scott. Although again, you don't get to keep your bonuses between levels, so it's more of a use them, the use them or lose them. And because I personally don't really think about them as much, I really just, don't use it as much. Now we're going to skip the cutscene here. We have a giant scorpion type enemy coming up. Which will feel... Oh no, I'm thinking of the next boss. We're going to move along with this enemy here. Use our missile barrage. Let's get rid of it. As I said, it's got some interesting tech to it. I know this is a boss, I've got to position myself just perfect so I can immediately start the cutscene. As it really does help speed up some time by not having to wait around for movements. It's been ages since I've seen the other parts of the show. Also, shoutouts to the animes that Robotech was based off of. Super Dimensional Forces Macross, Super Dimension Southern Cross, and Genesis Chamber. This, as I said earlier, is based off the Genesis Chamber part. Like Harmony Gold or not, I will state the fact that they did have at least a cohesive idea when trying to combine things together to get around the actual limitations for 80s requirements of having X number of episodes for the in order for something to be in syndication. If you're a Macross fan, I'm not saying I'm for them, I'm not saying I'm against them, I'm just saying I will give them credit where credit is due. Everything else, that's a different story. Want to go like this. Move like this and this and this. Gonna move here, 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 here. Yes, the estimate of being 50 minutes is namely so I can cover for any possible game overs. Luckily, that doesn't put us back at the start, it just starts us at the beginning of a level. Which is a positive note. Although you might see that later on when we have the missions where the fact of not getting good transparency layers in emulator will be a pain to see things, but that's something I really can't control. Now I could be skipping that cutscene, but I need a drink, so just mass as much as I can, even though I'll lose a couple seconds there. Gotta stay hydrated. Move here, move up here, do it there. Da, da. Gonna backpedal up here. Move just so we can actually hit the enemies with the giant lasers. They don't help or hurt us, it's just I'd like to avoid actually having to tank damage. As this is not one of my... as my specialty comes in horizontal shmups alongside twin sticks. That's where my specialty comes into play. Although I will state that the way the emulator reads inputs sometimes does not run a read inputs properly with holding things versus not holding it when it gets to the top of the screen. But again, we do what we can do to be able to showcase these games off, as this is technically close to lost media because you can't buy it anymore, and apart from owning a phone with it already on there, you sorta can't play it either. Well, there are ways around it, but I'm not gonna tell you, but Google is your friend here. And the speedrun actually allows, you know, emulator. We also have a category for phone. If you want to actually pull it up, and since Twitch allows you to stream your phone screen, well, you can actually run the game off of your phone. And by that, I mean actually speedrun the game via using the actual mobile version. By mobile, I actually mean with the actual pure hardware. Although it's a pain in the arse, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, it's how I practice. We don't have those, because taking a death... you do get to manage to keep some of your stuff when you do take a death, so it's a bit of an easy way to actually guarantee some of the stuff. Whoops! And this is why I said about having to deal with some of the stuff, because the game not really letting me dump everything for a phone pad on a SNES controller. And my comment when it comes to mobile emulator is essentially, I'm just going to get it to work and deal with the differences. So we're going to avoid the actual rocks there. Going to come down here. We're going to move over here. Get rid of some of the enemies. Tank a little bit of damage, because we want to be able to survive. Pick up the extra health, pick up some more protoculture, because, again, we're going to be saving those for the bosses. And although score is not as important, it's still something that, you know, is worth noting. And we're going to use Missile Barrage, take out the whole screen, to some degree. Now, one of the interesting things is the other characters actually start out with a level 2 and level 3 actual attack bonus, unlike Scott. Hence one of the reasons why they actually have their own unique categories, because of that, plus also the Missile Barrage is different. And because if we didn't have something like, and at the time, you know, my thought was, if we didn't have them as separate categories, then everybody would use specifically one character and the others would never get love. And considering this game was already obscure, I figured more people should actually have to check out the other characters. And we're skipping the cutscene again. Now this is the giant scorpion. And yes, it just randomly appears even when playing on mobile. So we're just gonna sit here and just take care of it. We don't have to worry about the arms. And again, we're going to push ourselves right near the top, so that way we are in the spot to start a cutscene. As being able to immediately skip a cutscene, instead of everything else. If we did not do that, they would slowly have to fly up before it would start the cutscene. Here's where we actually start having... Now you start to see where we actually have to avoid obstacles on screen. If I really wanted to go... If I really wanted to try to preserve health over everything, I would be actually using the protoculture to avoid everything. But we want to go fast, so... Only if needed. Although there... I believe it's this one where you do not have any buffs, the ability to get any more weapon upgrades for this mission. So what we got is what we got. But we made it through. Skip the cutscene. And now we should be able to start picking up upgrades. So we're going to move over this way. Pick up another missile. Slowly align ourselves up. Quickly do that there just to clear off some of the enemies. Quickly grab the upgrade. Because, like every good shmup, we want to be able to hit and deal as much damage as possible. Fly up here, pick up the triple shot, just in here. I could try to go down and get rid of those, but I was already up to get the weapon, so that score versus actually having your weapon. Excuse me. And I'm the type of person when it comes to the shmups where it's just like, I know my skill level, I'm decent enough, but unless it's certain games, I'm not going to go for high scores. I'm going to go for showcasing the skill, the game as a whole, and then going from there. Mind you, that is one of the interesting things I do like about this game. It being a mobile game does allow players to practice whenever and wherever they are. As I said, there's ways you can find it online. And ironically, a lot of these games just like they become lost, you know, to time. There we go. Is it the boss as it is? I believe it's that. Yep, it is. So we're gonna fly this way, slowly ease around there. And that's one of the reasons why we saved the proto-culture for those. Because we have limited access to Battleoid mode, it is just faster to save it for when we really need it. Also, the fact of, since it slows the gameplay down, even though we get a better rate of fire, we want to go fast, so although this game is pretty simple, it, at the same point is a good beginner's, you know, shmup to learn the basics. It's very forgiving too. Although in difficult mode, which you take more damage if I recall, and there's a lot more enemies. Positive note though, you get to immediately skip the cutscenes. You get to skip the cutscenes no matter what, as long as you're playing any other character other than Scott. But I personally prefer using Scott just because it sort of feels like what you would do if you were to probably pick it up and play, you know, on your local mobile store at the time. Although I don't even want to think about how much battery power this would drain. I mean, you want to talk about Sega Game Gear levels of bad. Shoutouts to the Game Gear. And yes, I own a Game Gear, so I can technically make that joke. Gonna move there, over there. I'm going to launch some missiles. Quickly grab the reload of it. Scroll down at the bottom. Quickly do some waving in and out of enemies so I can make sure to avoid damage. And pick up some of the health. It's basically I'm moving back and forth slightly so that way I can not only avoid enemy fire but also be able to get a bit of a more consistent rate of fire over an area of the screen rather than just having it be like that. If you want to actually get fast damage over the over a screen, fast damage over a certain part of the screen, one of the easiest ways is just moving back and forth quick. It's sort of like wave dashing, well, not so much wave dashing, but strafing. Yeah. On to the next boss. Is this the repeat of the Scorpion? Yes, it is. Oops. We're gonna, again, move here. Save the rest of the horticulture. Again, gonna move up here so that way we can skip a cutscene. The nicest thing is the game lets you buffer a cutscene. Buffer skipping a cutscene by just being able to press it as soon as it starts. Now, there is a chance I might die or possibly game over on one of the later stages in this level. It's because if you notice how the clouds look, they are not as transparent as you would like. And considering that in some of the later stuff there are actual buildings hidden in there, it sort of makes it a lot harder to see where we are trying to avoid. Move here, here, here. Gonna go grab this. Then just keep going as much as we can. It's been a while since I've seen New Generation as far as the anime goes. So don't ask me on the lore on that one. I've still got to even work on getting through Macross. Although, shoutouts to Hulu finally having it, and it finally being available in the West. Well, excluding the original, but Robotech does an actual okay job of explaining at least some of the lore there. But shoutouts also to the amazing music in the franchise as well. As that is one of the nice things that the Macross franchise has done with how much it's done with promoting a lot of different styles of music. I've got to get ready to skip a cutscene. At least the game gives you some good visual cues about when you need to start moving stuff to skip a cutscene by showing the ships flying in together. Gotta pick up some more protoculture, gonna move down here. Now, I believe it's the next mission, or the one after that, where we're going into the Hive. I really do not want to actually take a death, because that mission can be very deadly, and also having to try to avoid a lot of enemies during it. In fact, that's part of the reason why I've got some stuff with that one. A lot of the mechs, you know, are pretty good on that one. I mean, some people give New Generation a bad rap, but it's decent for what they tried to do with it. Although shoutouts to Harmony Gold being worried about the creator of Genesis Chamber possibly using Robotech as a way to try to get another series, which, I hate to say it, that's part of the actual reasons about why they actually did not like some of the stuff with Macross' side of stuff, but I'm not going to argue for or against that one. I don't know. It's been well over, I believe, nearly 40 years for Robotech, and I know well over 40 years for Macross. But at the same point, I like to say, check out both. Both of them have influenced a lot of the pop culture on both sides of the world. And always just try to remember the Masters part, which people forget about. In fact, it's the only game, it's the only part of the franchise that never had any type of game based off of it, except for the canceled N64 game. So, getting close to this one here. Then I'll move over here, here. Fire some missiles, take out all the enemies there. Then I'll move like that there. Again, we want to position ourselves so that we don't die, but that, oh, oops. That at the same point we also take out the damage. And partly my estimate is to include possibly dying on some of the upcoming missions. However, I've also gotten a lot better at shmups since the last time I ran this game. Thank you, Macross Shooting Insight. I had to get very good at vertical shmups for part of that game. But if you notice how those buildings are now, I can actually take damage if I run into them. So I now have to avoid that with not so good transparent cloud cover. Again, Again, imagine trying to play this on an actual old school flip phone. Like your Razors, your Blackberries. Imagine trying to play it and see things like that. That's the one positive note about playing it off your phone nowadays. Especially if you look up, you know, the ability to do it. With a modern touchscreen, it actually does an okay job of being able to actually use semi-touch controls, because you can just move left and right off of just certain inputs. So it's not as bad. Considering you don't have to worry about firing, you just have to worry about doing some stuff and pressing like the function keys, or the equivalent of the function keys on it, which is actually, you know, makes it a lot easier to play. I can't imagine playing it back in the day when you would have to play it on a very tiny screen. Although I'm always shocked about all the games that actually did come to mobile or had mobile versions. Shoutouts to finding out randomly, thanks to a YouTube suggestion, that even Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow has a mobile version. Should be either on the boss or the next part with it. Now, hope I don't die here, people. This part here is a pain. I have to avoid taking damage while also trying to not die, and while also avoiding attacks. Man, the game really does not give you that much health, and the bonuses we get here are random. Whoops. Trying to actually use my missiles here. Want to actually take advantage of some of the stuff and pick when and where we use our protoculture, because once we actually take out the beginning part, we still have to take out everything inside, and it does give something that blocks, and it also doesn't give healing as much, so we gotta actually make sure we get healing where we can. And over here, right here, that there, move up here quickly as anything. If I was taking deaths, then it would actually not be giving me as much stuff. There. Sorry if I'm being a little quiet here. It's because, as I said, there is a real... It's like you really do not want to be looking at the boss's health on this particular boss, because you're avoiding everything else. And slowing down means it's a lot easier for you to run into a building. But we got through. Good. That mission can be a very big pain in the arse. Especially if you take a death, or multiple deaths. Especially since in that case you have to sort of not only start that battle over again, but you start it over again with the most basic weapon. So... if you can imagine just like how much that would take up and how much time that can cost. Move here, around here, we'll grab this here, we'll grab that there. Now overall this is actually a pretty good time. I guess I've gotten a lot better thanks to a lot of practice with well, Macross shooting Insight, because when that game is vertical, you tend to get better. Plus also that game legitimately you have no healing, which is why the lowest auto healing is allowed in the speedrun. But getting good at avoiding things while dealing damage. I want to hit that up so we don't have to worry about some of the stuff. Also, welcome laters to welcome laters to Robotech, the new generation. The one mobile game for the one mobile game for the franchise that people forget exists sometimes. We're gonna grab this over here. Avoid some of the stuff like that. Now, I do have to say, I do still highly recommend people check out this game. It's so good. And again, we're going to get ready for skipping a cutscene. Oh, oops. Forgot, this is the one where you don't have a cutscene to skip. Again, practice. But we're gonna line up again, get rid of some of the enemies, pick up some score, as the game still gives you lives even up this far in the game. Now, the one nice thing is because this was meant to be on mobile, they do give you a lot of lives, and it is quite generous on where your restart points are. I'm gonna pick up some more missiles, come down over here, loop over here, quickly turn there so I can avoid taking some damage since we're getting into the late game. Pick up some health. Slide over here. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. Slide up. Slide down. Slide all around. Pick up some of the armor. We essentially have Super Veritech armor for now. Gonna slowly ease away that one. We've got a little bit of help of the Protoculture to spare. We're gonna use that to do a little bit of screen clearing, as avoiding enemies and using those iframes is important. Again, position perfectly as close as possible to be able to end the level as fast as possible. Flying left and right, now, don't you know. I'm going to use a little bit of the Protoculture here to help with screen clearing. And when we do use it, we want to be able to just move it so slightly and just start and stop it as fast as possible so we do not use it all. Although I did take a death there, I can always get those again, because since we had a high amount, the game does give you a lot of the abilities that you already had. Gonna move up here, move down here, fall around. This is just so we can take out the enemies. This is namely so we can avoid taking a lot of deaths, as some shmups like this game do reward playing a bit on the more reckless side. Considering that does give you a decent amount of healing items, it is worth playing a bit more aggressive to avoid dying. Which is always something that you need to be aware of when speedrunning a shmup or even playing it. If the game lets you actually take advantage of a lot of health, then it is just worth using that. Use that there. Line myself up perfectly there. Line there. Just so, as the enemy will fly up and down on the sides of the screen, so we're going to take advantage of that pattern. Slide down here, let it slowly come towards us. Quickly grab all the tasty yum yum health and Protoculture. And there's that. And I believe that is time. Yep, although hitting the pause button did actually zoom it in a little bit, but yeah, that's Robotech, the new generation. It is a very fun little game, and I highly recommend people looking up how to play it and especially a lot of all the older actual mobile phone games, Java from that time just does not get love. And a lot of it just gets forgotten, and because they really could never bring over some of these games, it ends up being, you know, consigned to, you know, the dark ages of the internet in a sense. So it really is just something I'm always happy about getting to show off. And while this is going on, I'm gonna grab a quick drink and start getting ready for my next run.